A weekend of Premier League fixtures has came and went, and it has revealed a lot of stuff and set up a lot of narratives that need to be discussed. And today I want to talk about which manager will get the sack first in this Premier League season. No one's been sacked yet. You could maybe say, Lopetegui was technically, he was the first manager to get sacked, but there was like a mutual separation between the two, Wolves and Lopetegui, that is. But I'm going to cover everybody who I think has a chance of getting sacked first, give you my thoughts, give you a preview and kind of glimpse at the table and discuss it through that lens. But comment down below, who do you think is going to be the first Premier League manager to get sacked this season? No one's been sacked yet. As always, if you end up enjoying the video, consider giving it a like, and let's get right into it. I think immediately, the right at the top of the list is people who I think are guaranteed not to get sacked. Right now, as it stands, Man City, Tottenham, Liverpool, Arsenal, Brighton. Those five, everybody there is absolutely safe. I'd say Emery at Villa is just a tier below that, as well as Moyes at West Ham, because, he just won them the Conference League. They've been playing really good this season. They look a lot sharper, and I think they're only going to get better, West Ham. Plus, loss to City is what it is, but it was a valiant loss. They took the lead first, so they have something to hang their hats on. Besides that, everybody else is kind of a big question mark, I would say. So like the first 7 teams in the table, I would discount from this conversation. 8th through 20th, I think everybody's up for contention for getting sacked first. It's a tough call. It's a tough shout to predict who will be the first one to get sacked. I think a big part of that is the upcoming fixtures and the general expectations of the clubs. For example, Luton, they might be 20th. They might have, joint second lowest amount of goals, but they're not expected to do too well this season. If they could, keep it like this for now, they need one win. They have a game in hand here. They could get a big boost here, and then they could hopefully start to string together some good performances. So their expectations are rather lower. Someone like Burnley, though, is an interesting measure because they've only played 3 games. They've lost all 3, and Vincent Kompany and Burnley haven't really got, off to the start that we expected them to this season. So I would say he's somewhat likely. But beyond that, as of right now, I think, I could get on here and be like, oh, it's going to be Pochettino, it'll be Eddie Howe, it'll be Erik ten Hag. No, I don't think any of those managers should be concerned with losing their job first. Not to say that any number of those 3 could be out of a job come the end of the season, or out of the current job that they're in at least. Not to say that that isn't a possibility. Would Chelsea slightly feel, with all 3 clubs, Newcastle, United, Man United, that is. So Newcastle United, Man United, and Chelsea, it feels like it is inevitable that their coaches will leave. Maybe not this season, but within the next year or so. Erik ten Hag, kind of a gray area. Hasn't been the best man manager. His tactics haven't been able to kind of reach their true state because, either one person's injured or, someone's unavailable for some reason. So because of that, out of these 3, I think he's the safest. Followed by Howe. I think Howe could do well and turn it around, has a generally decent crop of players, but Chelsea's a big question mark. I really don't know how long Poch will last there. Areola, I think, is safe. I think Bournemouth's, as long as he's not in the relegation zone, he will be clear. Fulham, I can see happening because Marco Silva just kind of loses concentration and starts to lose games consistently, and, they haven't looked terrible, but they haven't looked the best. And if you look at Fulham's run-in across these upcoming fixtures, it's not the easiest, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going off this by memory here. But Palace away, Chelsea at home, Sheffield at home, then this is really the stretch. Yeah, I saw this stretch and I was like, oof, this is tough. Spurs, Brighton, Man United, Aston Villa, then Wolves away, Wolves at home, and then Liverpool away. From basically now until December, they're going to have a bumpy ride. And if they drop, points and say the Sheffield game, the Fulham game, the Wolves game, they could be in a situation that is far, far harsher than they'll probably be expecting or want to be in, and that could maybe result in something. I think the manager that's most likely to get sacked first is probably Sheffield United's coach. Let's be honest, Paul Heckingbottom, I believe that's his name. He hasn't had the best of starts to the season. They're on, what, 1 point, is it? Yeah, they're on 1 point for 5 games. They have a very, kind of skeletal squad, it feels like at times. They face, these fixtures are crazy. Newcastle at home, West Ham away. Those are their next 2 games. Tough games. Then Fulham is up in the air. Sheffield versus Man United. The Blades against the Red Devils. That's going to be a tough game, even if United is, on slightly lower dip of form. But that's going to be a tough game for them. Then they have Arsenal. Then they have Wolves at home. Then they have Brighton. Then they have Bournemouth, Burnley, Liverpool, Brentford, Chelsea, Villa, Luton, City. So until the end of the year is not an easy run-in. Obviously, this is like half the season here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. By then, more than half the season will be played. But this isn't a comfortable stretch, and this isn't a stretch that I think Heckingbottom can survive. Sheffield hasn't looked that promising, and they'll probably lose these next 2 games. Then if they draw or lose here, they'll probably lose these next 2 games as well. So if you look at, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games maybe. I'll say 5 games. Discount that Wolves game because that Brighton game they'll be an underdog in. But if you look at the games that are coming up in which they'll be underdogs, I mean, they lost to Spurs, drew to Everton, lost to City, lost Nottingham Forest, lost to Crystal Palace. So if they lose, say they lose 4 and win 1 even, So they lose 1, 2, 3, 4 and beat Fulham somehow. That's 3 points out of 15, which will put them at 10 games played and 6 points. And at that point, I think he'll probably be, 10 games played, 4 points, which would really just be awful for them. They do not have an easy run-in. If I were to have to, place a bet on it, I would say more than likely it'll be Paul Heckingbottom of Sheffield United. I think Burnley, let's quickly look at them because some people have been saying maybe Vincent Kompany. You look at the upcoming fixtures, Nottingham Forest, big game there, then big game against Man United. A lot of big games across these next 5 fixtures. Chelsea, Luton, Newcastle, Man United, and Forest. They should be looking to win the Forest game, the Luton game, and then just try to get as many points across those next 5. If they lose this game or lose the Luton game or drop points in both, there could be some serious questions as to whether or not Kompany continues to manage Burnley. But besides that, right now I'd say the most likely Sheffield. Second most likely, probably Everton, because they have played 5. Burnley's only played 3. And one of those games is a game they have to play against Luton on the 3rd of October, which will, no doubt help them a bit. But all in all, I mean, I think that if you look at the standing right now, for me, most likely team to sack their coach first, Sheffield United. Second most likely team, probably Everton. And then third most likely team, I'll say Burnley. I think Kompany is really in a spot that isn't too comfortable for him, between a rock and a hard place. So those are my predictions. Comment down below. Let me know, who do you think is the most likely manager to get sacked first in the Premier League season for the 23-24 Premier League campaign? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed. If you made it this far, why not consider subscribing? And I have a lot more videos out in the next coming weeks and months. Lots of exciting stuff to cover. Lots of exciting stuff to cover in the Premier League as well as the Champions League. So just an entire flurry of content coming your way. Thank you so much for watching. Truly appreciate it. I'm Sideline Sedo. Peace.